I saw them and I idolized their relationship once, and I so badly wanted to be chosen by somebody in that way. And I so badly just wanted to have that like white picket fence perfect life that I put those expectations on myself, and it really did lead me to accept a lot less than I deserved in a lot of relationships, because I thought that's what love was. And it's because of the examples that I had.
Hi everyone, it's Beth, your favorite therapist, or at least I hope I am, and host of Quiet the Clock. I am so excited to share the secret of my glowing skin with all of you. Lumine Face Pro. This amazing device has completely transformed my skin, and I've noticed a real difference in tone and texture in such a short amount of time. Lumine Face Pro uses advanced microcurrent technology to gently stimulate your facial muscles, promoting collagen production and improving skin elasticity. I mean, amazing. The device is also equipped with LED light therapy, which helps reduce wrinkles and fine lines and promotes cell regeneration. Hello, so perfect for this 43-year-old mama. I need every ounce of this. With regular use, Lumine Face Pro can help you achieve a smoother, brighter, and more even skin tone. It's so easy to use and safe on any skin type. Invest in your skin and experience the difference with Lumine Face Pro. Visit Lumine.com today to learn more and order yours. Use the code QTC at checkout to get $30 off your first order. I mean, what a deal. $30 off your first order. I hope you guys run to Lumine.com and get yours and love it as much as I do. I am so excited to have our next guest on, Meg Reynolds from Not the Girl Next Door. I was on your podcast, I guess it feels like yesterday, but a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we just had such an amazing conversation. So I'm so excited to be back together today to talk some more. And I have to tell you, I usually prepare a lot for these, but I didn't prepare much because I just feel like we have so much we can just talk about and go on and on about that I'm like, I'm just going to roll with it.
I mean, yeah, you and I's episode it could have been a 2-hour episode. Like we did not stop talking. And I mean, that episode, I can't even thank you enough for coming on the podcast. Like, it's always great to hear, other perspectives and other women's stories, and just, it was a good one. And I can't wait to keep sharing, clips from that episode. And eventually,
I'm so glad. I'm always so happy to share. I had said this a lot in our episode that we recorded for your podcast, which was, I was so impressed, just sort of your perspective on life and the things that you were saying for someone your age. So I just want you to share your age here, because although I think it's relevant in that, you are younger, but you have all this amazing like perspective and lens on things.
It's the trauma. No, I'm kidding.
But but a little bit, right? A little bit.
It is. So I'm 25, and something enough I got told a lot growing up was like, oh, I'm so mature for my age, or I'm an old soul. And I used to think, growing up, that was the biggest compliment of, oh, wow, I can hang with the adults. But I actually kind of realized that that stemmed a lot from some trauma and just, feeling like I had to grow up very, very quickly. And it's funny too, because I'm an only child, right? And when I tell people that, they're very surprised oftentimes that I am an only child, because, they picture, I think the stereotype of the only child is spoiled brat, never had to work a day in their life kind of thing. And I'm like the polar opposite end of that. Like, nothing came easy to me. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a very great childhood. Of course, there were things that happened. We can get into that. But, my mother is still my best friend to this day. And she's actually, like my rock, I always say. And I always say, like, I'd rather have one fantastic parent than two shitty parents. Like, I feel truly blessed that I had my mom, because if she wasn't who she was and so nurturing and kind, like I would be like, I don't even know who I would be.
I couldn't agree more. I think, to have one securely attached parent or adult is so important. And sometimes it just takes one to model that to a child and to give that nurturing and that love. And, if any child can have one, I think that's a blessing.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, because looking at attachment attachment styles. Obviously, this is something I learned a lot about in therapy and have worked through in therapy. And I'm actually going to my therapist for the first time in over a year after this.
Oh, I love that. I love that you're doing it after this. I
No,
love
literally,
that.
I was like, oh, that's perfect timing because, I mean, you and I talked about this on our episode on my podcast of how much change I've been through in this year. And I remember when everything was going on, I actually had texted my therapist and I was just like, I just want to thank you because,
Oh,
had I not been coming to you, I don't think I could have handled this the way that I did. Don't get me wrong, it's still been really hard and a lot to process. And that's part of why I'm going because I'm like, I feel okay, but I feel like I should also still go. Like, there's just some like, I keep mentioning
I
it to my
love
friend
that.
and
What?
she was like, you keep saying you're going to go back. Just go. And I'm like, yeah, I should. Just like
But
a little tune up.
yeah, no, I love that so much. And I love that, I want that to kind of be the message and the narrative around therapy, period, is that you don't only go when things are going well, like going shitty, or that there's a crisis
Yeah,
or there's a problem. I love that you shared that here because I think that's such a powerful message that therapy is not just for those moments.
it's
We
not.
yeah, and we
It's,
can go when things
yeah.
are going really well or we're navigating change really well. It's still that space. It's like people go to the gym 3 to 5 times, maybe 6, 7 times a week. Like, why aren't we, as a therapist, like, I love hearing that. I also love hearing that you shared with your therapist, like, all your work together has equipped you to navigate this change.
Yeah, it's I truly like adore my therapist and you and I talked about too how hard it can be like to find a good therapist. She's my fourth therapist in my lifetime and I don't think we really got into this on our episode, but I started the first time I ever went to therapy I was 14 years old.
Hmm.
And the reason I begged my mom to take me to therapy because
Really?
mental health back then even it was still so stigmatized like 10 years ago and I was truly in such a dark place. Like my
Mm,
mom, I'm going to issue a trigger warning here. We're gonna go into it if we're going to talk about
let's
it. Like,
go. Yeah.
my mom had caught me hurting myself and
Oh,
flipped out, and like I just was in such a dark, dark place at 14 years old, and honestly, probably longer than that. I remember times coming home from school and just crying, like at 8 years
oh
old,
gosh.
just because I think my mental health I've struggled with longer than I even realized because it
Hmm.
wasn't talked about. And
Yes.
there's so many reasons and things I can guess of what contributed to that. But so I started at 14, hated my first therapist, hated the second therapist, stopped going for like a good couple years the rest of high school.
Mm.
That did me in, got to college, didn't go to therapy until my senior year of college, hated the school counselor. She was a, for lack of a better word, quack.
Wow.
Sorry.
So you really didn't have a good experience with therapy until your current therapist.
No, I really, really didn't. But it was something I wanted so badly because I was like, life cannot be this way. I always, people always ask, what's your biggest fear in life? And for me, my biggest fear was turning into my dad, of
Mm.
that angry, bitter, cynical person struggling with alcohol. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my father, and I've mentioned this so many times on my podcast of our relationship is very complicated and it's better than it used to be, but it'll never be the relationship I want nor deserve.
Mm.
And that's something I've had to navigate and cope with, and therapy has helped me deal with because it's really hard, getting to this age now of, you're getting married. And like, I dread the idea of my dad being at my wedding. That sucks to say. Like,
Yeah.
I already have plan A, B, and C to keep him from getting too drunk. Like, and
Oh,
just he's that person that can ruin the holidays in an instant. Like, everyone, and I think unfortunately a lot of people can relate to that experience. But all that to say,
yes, you're so right. And I sorry to cut you off, but I love that you're
no,
so
no, no.
honest about that. And I think with anything, and part of the reason of having these platforms and doing these types of podcasts is that we have to talk about this stuff, whether it's like mental health, fertility, like trauma, like a lot of people do relate. And if we're not talking about it, you feel like it's only your problem or only your life.
Right. And look, like some people may say I'm too open, to each their own. I say to that, like, if, like, why are we hiding these things behind closed doors, right? Like, it is, we're not as unique in our experiences as we think we are. We're not as
Mm,
different and, one of a kind as we think we are. Like, and that sounds kind of fucked up to say. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I curse on this podcast?
Yes, you can, of course.
No, I never know going on other people's podcasts. It does sound messed up to say, but there is such a comfort in the fact of, hey, you're not that original. Like, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
And it's sad that people can relate to those experiences, but at the same time, it is comforting to know you're not alone. And I always said when I started my podcast, because it came out of, I just started going to therapy again and I came out of that bad relationship. I was like, if I can be to one other person, the person I wish I had growing up, or, whether
Yeah.
you're a 16-year-old girl who's experiencing her first toxic relationship and her friends don't understand it, or you're the girl who everyone else around her her friends have these healthy family dynamics seemingly, and she feels so alone. Like, you know, letting them know of you're not alone. It does get better. Like, you can make your life what you want of it. And also for the girl who was always told she was so smart and was going to go so many places and felt burnt out by the time she walked across that stage and got that high school diploma, you
Mm,
know, that pressure is so tremendous. And, that pressure to make something of yourself. So for all those girls, guys, whoever that just needed that person, like, if I could have been that one person that made them feel a little bit better, then it's worth it to me.
yeah, and you make so many amazing points there. I think even if there aren't people in your immediate life that can relate to what you're going through, there is somebody that can relate or someone that has already
Mm,
been through it.
yeah.
You bring up pressure, and that's something we talk a lot about on here. Like
Yeah.
all of the pressure that we put on ourselves, all the pressure other people put on ourselves, like, and how that leaves us feeling. I'm curious to hear more about how that's come up for you in your life.
I think Rocco, I love him
Hi, we have a
so much.
visitor.
I love you so. He thinks when the camera's on me that the camera also needs to be on him. He's a little
Oh, he's
attention.
also the star.
He's a mama's boy. Um, I think because I mean, from a young age, there was all this pressure on me. I was the only child. Like, my parents, you're our legacy. Which is great that to have parents that were so focused on you and wanted, my parents, neither of them went to college. So it was really important to them that I went to college.
Hmm.
I remember I started looking at colleges in the seventh grade. That is
Oh my gosh.
that is psychopathic behavior, because I felt, and don't get me wrong, it's funny. It's like funny to joke about, but also I'm like, I should not have been worrying about college at, what was I
No.
like? I couldn't have been okay. So I turned 14 my freshman year of high school. So I was what, a 12? Like, that should not have been my biggest worry as going to college.
I know, but that
Um,
does speak to everything we talk about on here is just like the expectation and the
mhm.
like the path is already like determined for you, and there's
Yeah,
more emphasis on like this is what we want it to look like for
I
you versus like what
yeah.
do you want to go to college? Like do you what yeah.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. My parents were always encouraging of my writing and reading, and obviously, then we talked too about how I thought I wanted to be a political newscaster. That was like, and there is an element of that of like, well, how much of that was my dream? And as soon as I remember, it was fall my freshman year at Syracuse, and we didn't have to declare our majors yet, so I didn't. But we had to do these seminars where we would like go around. You picked, I think it was like three majors to like go to these seminars and hear from all the top professors. And I went to the BDJ one first, which is BDJ means broadcast digital journalism. It's
Okay.
Syracuse speak. So I went to the BDJ one, and I was like checking my watch. Is this over yet? I couldn't wait to get out of there. And then I went to the television, radio, film one, the TRF. That was my
Mhm.
major. And I remember I sat in this room and I just felt like, oh yeah, I want to do this
That's
instead.
so cool.
And that was a hard conversation. I felt like I was letting my parents down by being like, hey, remember that plan? Like, I don't want to do that anymore. And don't get me wrong, and look where I am now. It all worked out for the best, but it's really unnerving every single time in my life that I had my plan. Like, if you had asked me what my life was going to look like, it would not be where I am today.
I,
I say that in the best way possible.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I had to let go of, I talked about this on our episode. I had to let go of a lot of ego, a lot of expectations, a lot of fear of what others would think or say, to just do what I wanted. Because if I had my way, I would have been married, maybe engaged, but probably married by now. I would probably be having a kid in a year or two. I would probably be living in Manhattan and miserable. And like, uh, nothing in my life has turned out the way I thought it was going to. And I say that in the best way possible. And I'm thankful every single day that certain events occurred that led me
Yeah.
here.
Where do you think you got that plan? Like, where was that plan uniquely yours? Like, where did you get the plan that by this age you would be married, in a couple years you would have children?
I really do think a lot of it was like my parents, and for different reasons from my parents. My parents eloped when my mom was 20. My mom had me at 26, and I was sold from them that they just met and fell in love and they eloped and da 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 da. None of that was reality, and the reality of their relationship is a lot darker than that. And they're divorced now and absolutely they should be. Um, and that those more stories aren't really mine to share; those are for my mom to
Yeah,
share.
yeah, yeah.
But I think a lot of it was I saw what they had, because the thing growing up was you would have never guessed anything was wrong. I
Mm,
thought that they had everyone in our lives thought they had the perfect marriage and were so in love and happy, and they were always physically affectionate with each other, in front of people, kissing, hugging. Like, it wasn't for a lack of that. But I think I saw them and I idolized their relationship once, and I so badly wanted to be chosen by somebody in that
mhm.
way. And I so badly just wanted to have that like white picket fence perfect life, that I put those expectations on myself, and it really did lead me to accept a lot less than I deserved in a lot of relationships, because I thought that's what love was. And it's because of the examples that I had. And
Yeah,
you and I talked about this too, of how, now from therapy, I've realized, I need to date from the lens of, okay, I'm not just dating for my future husband, but who's going to be the father of my children? Who's going to be that role model for them? And what is our relationship going to model love to them for? Because I'm so committed to ending that cycle in my family, because looking back at my family,
beautiful.
my mom's parents, same situation. And I just, when you take that step back and you can see it, it's like, okay, my mom experienced this, so this is why she chose my dad. And it's like, okay, my dad experienced this from his parents, this is why he was the way he was in the relationship with my mom. And it's just like the never
Yeah.
ending trickle down from those past generations. And that's why I get so frustrated. I'm like going on a tangent here. That's why I get so frustrated when I hear people idolize, the relationships of the 50s and dating of the olden days. Like, oh, and I to that I say, like, okay, but were people actually happy? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or was dad sneaking off every night to have an affair, or was mom, taking shots of vodka at 2 p.m. just to get herself through and numb the pain? Like, it's so easy in hindsight to idolize and place these olden values and relationships on a pedestal, but you don't know the reality of who was actually happy and who was not.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think that, one of the things we talk a lot about on here is comparison. And it gets really harmful and
Mhm.
problematic when we're making comparison or even shaping life decisions on a vision that we don't fully know the whole truth of. And, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the downsides of social media is that we have this like, comparative tool we can open up and people open up like multiple times a day and we don't know the full picture. The other thing is that we have all been sold the similar picture and path. And like
Right.
to your point, a lot of times it's like, but is that what's going to make me happy? Because you do the things. Like I've seen people follow the timeline and then they're miserable. I did too with career. First of all, I love that your college offered these seminars to get a glimpse into what you
Yeah.
liked because we
Yeah.
didn't have that opportunity. And I declared a major of business economics. And it wasn't until my junior year that I sat on because I had to have like a lab class and I took psychology. And I'm like, oh, I actually like this thing, but like I'm almost
Yeah.
done with school.
I
Um,
I really did like Syracuse University. It has its problems like any university, but I really appreciated what being part of Newhouse, the SI Newhouse School of Communications. They're so committed to allowing their students to be creative and like find what they're really passionate about, and I think that's probably why they've been one of the top programs in the country. And that was something that my parents were so proud of that I got into. And my dad actually didn't realize. So why this is actually it goes back to our conversation of like, whose dream was it? The
Mm-hmm.
only reason I applied to Syracuse is because my dad really heavily pressured me into it because he thought it was a SUNY school. So he thought the tuition would be cheaper. And then by the time he realized what it actually cost, I had already fallen in love with it. And we toured. I was hooked. Like the minute I stepped on that campus, I was hooked. It just felt so right. And I applied early decision.
You're like,
so
sorry.
that plan kind of backfired on him a little bit. But I think it's really good to have people in your life to talk through your dreams with, and I don't, but it's also important to know when to just listen to yourself and like you have the final
Yes.
decision over your life. You
Yes.
can you can talk to other people, you can ask for their input, but at the end of the day, you have the final decision. You have the final say.
Yeah,
And
and I think what ends
it's
up
hard.
happening a lot is that we ignore our intuition, we ignore our gut. Like I think sometimes what happens is the external voices are so loud
Yes.
that we forget to make our voice the loudest one in the room.
Yeah, and I have actually an incredible example of that. Obviously, on my podcast, and I talked with you about this. I got laid off earlier this year.
Yes. Yes, yes,
That's
yes.
part of
You
why
always
I'm
talk
going
about
back to
that.
therapy. And I ended up launching my business. And launching a company is not something I had planned on doing this year. I was thinking of maybe doing it next year, but it wasn't something I really saw for myself. And so when I was talking through this with one of my best friends, and I'm the kind of person when I'm going through things, I just have to talk. Like that's how I process. That is I
Mhm.
need to just get it all out and I will say the same story 20 times to like make sense of it myself. And so I'm talking with her about it and she just like kind of looked at me and she goes, you don't need my approval, right?" She was like, "This is you have to make this decision." She was like, "You
Mm,
don't need my approval to do this." And I was like, "No, I know that." But in my mind, I was like, "But I want you to be like, yeah, Meg, this is a great idea." She was like, I think you'll kick ass at it. I think it's wonderful for you." She's like, "But you don't need my approval. You don't need me to say, yeah,
mm.
you need to do it. Like, go make that decision." I was like, "I don't want to make this decision. I don't want to make it. Like, someone else make it for me, but you can't." Like,
I know. I think the thing too is like I love that story, but I think the thing too is that seeking of approval becomes so important for us, especially if we're going off the path, because
mhm.
it takes courage, it takes bravery to do that, and you're probably forging a path that no one's gone down before, and so
Yep.
you want people to be like, yeah, that's okay, like to go for it. And some people might not because they just don't understand it, they don't get it. My parents are from a generation of like, you get one job and you stay at it through retirement. So when I told
Yeah.
them I was like going back to school or changing again, like their heads were spinning.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's about like, I don't care if I have anyone's approval. Like
Mhm.
I want to do this. I'm listening to my gut. And because you can have a lot of naysayers.
Yeah. I had on the podcast earlier this year a woman by the name of Nikki Sands. She's a fellow entrepreneur and she launched a company called Gigs. And Gigs is basically the LinkedIn of the music industry is what she has made it. Because for people who are listening that don't know a lot about the touring industry, it's very word of mouth. There's no such thing as applications or resumes. Like it's very like, kind of behind the curtain type thing. Um, and when I asked her, how do you deal with the imposter syndrome of launching a business? Because this was actually before I got laid off. I was still with iHeart
Okay,
when we did
okay.
this episode. And she was like, honestly, sometimes you just have to be a little crazy. She was like, you just have to tell yourself, I can do this. Like, and honestly, as silly as it sounds, like, yeah, sometimes you just have to be a little crazy and go for it because
Hmm.
I think it's I think if you take something away from every quote unquote failure, then you're never truly failing. Like if you can learn something from it, then is it truly a failure?
Oh, I couldn't agree with that more. I tell my clients that all the time. And I have seen firsthand how fear of failure gets in the way of doing or trying anything.
I think the fear of failure is why I stayed in my college relationship so long. It's why I stayed in my role for so long. It's why I never let myself even fathom the idea of moving away from New York. I mean, I grew up on Long Island. It's like, what more could you want? And I was like, well, I do want more. I don't know what that more is, but I know this isn't it. And I think that's it too,
Mm,
is we have this idea that we need to have things figured out in order to reject something that's no longer working for us. And to that, I say, like, if you already know enough if you know something's not working out for you, right? Like for me, the idea of graduating and then living in Manhattan and commuting or finding a place, like it just never felt exciting. It felt more like dread to me.
mm,
And I think, hindsight, I thought it was, oh, just the dread of growing up. But looking back now, I was like, no, my gut was telling me this isn't right for me and this is not going to be in my best interest. But I didn't know how to articulate that back then.
mm.
That frontal
So
lobe development, man, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
I know. And I think people forget that that doesn't develop until like 26 years old, like
Yeah.
not fully developed. Yeah. It's interesting to think about like how impressionable we are and how
Mhm.
these like ideas of what we should do are formed. And then when we start to kind of like have more lived experience and we start to like our brain really starts to fully develop and form, that we're kind of like, I don't really want to do any of this, or like this is not my, I'm not happy with this. Or I love too what you said about it's enough, you know enough if you know it's not working for you. And I think you have to tune into how you're feeling and check in with yourself without, external influence to really understand like when something's working or not working.
Right. And something else too that changed a lot of the game for me is actually when I came off of birth control. Um,
Say
really.
more because there is so much we talk about on here and the
So
controversy around birth control.
I took myself off the pill, which again, I regret doing it the way that I did. If you're listening and considering going off it, please talk to your doctor first. Like, get on supplements because your body is going to be so fucked up.
What made you, can you share what made you to make that decision?
Yeah, so I got put on the pill when I was 14 years old, and I was diagnosed with PCOS. At 15, I got diagnosed with hypothyroidism, and they put me on levothyroxine. And then they were like, "Okay, that's it." When I was 20, I had a major cyst rupture that my OBGYN did not listen to me when I was saying something's wrong, something's wrong, something's wrong. And he was like, no, all your labs look fine. No, I ended up having a major cyst rupture, which is just so funny looking back. I always joke that my college boyfriend breaking my heart actually saved my life because we broke up and then 3 days later it ruptured. And I panicked. I thought I was maybe having a miscarriage. Like I didn't know. So I had to drive myself to the ER, which F that hospital. I will never go to that hospital again because
Mm.
the male, this is also why I will never go to another male OBGYN or see another male doctor because the male resident tried to tell me that I was just ovulating. And I was like, and gave me Tylenol. I was like, I am bleeding and in pain. This is not
But,
ovulation.
but this is
How did
like, you can't understand how many stories I've heard where women have been ignored. I just did another recording this week, where a doctor told a woman who was also excessively bleeding and ended up having cancer
Mhm.
that she was hysterical. Like, I hate to hear that, but like, it's so frustrating that it's not uncommon.
Well, also like I think it's led to a lot of like health anxiety for me of that fear of I'm not going to be listened to. But so I go back to my OBGYN at a follow up, and he looked and he was like, and even he was horrified that the guy tried to tell me I was ovulating because he was like, because he's affiliated with this hospital, so that's like
Oh,
a
wow.
liability. Yeah, his practice was tied with the hospital, so that's a liability for him. But he was like, no, you had like a golf ball sized cyst rupture. And I just was like, do you remember when I said I felt like something was wrong and you wouldn't give me an ultrasound like I asked? I
Again,
kept saying,
it's like not uncommon. It's that's the scary thing is this is not
and I'm
uncommon.
I'm lucky. I'm lucky I didn't lose an ovary to it. Like, because he said like if this it was like basically when you twist a balloon animal one too many times and the balloon animal pops, that's what the cyst was doing to my ovary. And it didn't, because the cyst hadn't fully like done a turn yet. I didn't have to go have surgery to like undo it. So now it's
Wow.
like it's that fear of like, okay, am I gonna be able to kids one day? Like that's a whole other thing. um but so that happened when I was 20 years old. And then I obviously had that really bad relationship that was from like 22 to 23. And then that spring, I just was like, you know what? I feel constantly inflamed. I'm constantly tired. I don't feel like this is managing my PCOS symptoms anymore. And I just frankly was fed up. So I
Mm,
just stopped taking it cold turkey, which was not the best thing to do. And I struggled with post birth control symptom like hair loss again because I was like I struggled with hair loss in my relationship because I was so stressed. I was losing
stress, yeah.
hair. I started losing hair again. I was so everything was all over the place. I became anemic from it. So I have to take
Oh.
iron supplements now. Um, and it's just crazy though because the physical implications aside of just how my sleep is improved and my physical fitness and all that stuff aside, I've never had such more mental clarity. And it felt like when I once it was like months later and it was like fully, my body was regulating itself again, I was like I have like a quiet in my mind that I have never had before. And now
Mm,
looking back, it makes me wonder how much of my depression and anxiety was amplified by this pill because I was put on it at 14, an age where my hormones are so out of whack that my body never had a chance to figure itself out. And I was never taught how to manage my PCOS symptoms naturally. I didn't even know there were 4 types of PCOS. Like there were so many things we didn't know and still don't know about PCOS that is
yeah.
crazy. And it's actually crazy. There's like the more I read on it, like it seems like there's studies coming out that links PCOS, like developing PCOS to childhood trauma and stress, which is crazy because cortisol, stress hormone,
Yeah,
all that
but
stuff.
stress, inflammation, it causes like havoc in your body. I
Yeah.
have learned, well, I think that I'm sorry all that happened to you, but it obviously led you on this journey to get more in tune with what your body actually needs. And it's really tough. And I've talked about this too. It's like I've learned so much through my secondary infertility journey about like Western medicine versus like Eastern and more holistic. And I think unfortunately, like not all, but like doctors are kind of trained to just write the script. And
Hmm.
so if you have PCOS or you have this or you have that, it's like, here's the pill. And we're not thinking about a
Yeah.
more holistic way or the impact of being on the pill for so
Hmm.
long.
Yeah. It's especially because they say like you're only supposed to be on it for a decade. But when I came off of it, I was almost at a decade. Like
I know,
I
and you were
think
on it for so young.
such a young age too. And I think, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to demonize the pill. I do think, it's beneficial to go on for some people, but I don't think it should be being prescribed when you're at that phase of life that you're going through puberty. Like that to me, just
Yeah. Well,
your
and you made
body
a
is
point
going
too
through
about
things.
like lack of education. Like there's so much we don't know. And I can't again tell you a number of times that that narrative comes up here is like, why didn't I know or I didn't know this? And,
Hmm.
we're not, I don't think there's enough education. I think there's more coming out about just sort of more natural things we can do to help heal our
Yeah.
body. And that doesn't
Yeah.
have to necessarily be pills.
There's a book I read. Hang on, let me grab it because this book is great. So this book right here I read like a year ago, and it's called Moody Bitches. Moody Bitches by Julie Holland. It's the truth about the drugs you're taking, the sleep you're missing, the sex you're not having, and what is really making you crazy. So it
Oh
is,
my God. Amazing.
and
Okay.
I really recommend every woman like reads this book. It talks all about like your monthly cycle, your hormones, sex, breastfeeding, your life stages, like how birth control affects the partners that we choose. Um,
Interesting.
it really, but it's crazy because I look at the I look at the men that I found attractive when I was on birth control, like some of my exes, and I'm like, I let you near me, I let you touch me. What the
Wow. That is
nuts, nuts,
wild.
nuts, nuts. And there's actually a part in the book where she's like, if you're a woman who has only ever been on birth control with your partner, I highly recommend coming off of it just to make sure you're still attracted to them because it is like I'm so serious. And the way she writes in this book, it's not like just the boring, stale. It's really funny and satirical. So it makes it an easier read to, read all this stuff in a very easily digestible way. So I mean, obviously this book is very well loved by me. Like,
Julie
please,
Holland. Okay. I have to check that out.
no, you definitely do. It is. It's definitely, it's a book I like tell everybody about. That and The Defining Decade are like my two. If you are looking for a book to kind of get in tune with yourself, those are the two I recommend.
Yeah. How do you feel like, again, we were saying earlier, 25, but been through a lot, healed a
Hmm.
lot in therapy, going back to therapy. How do you feel like this sets you up, kind of knowing all you know now, all that you've learned, the perspective you have? How do you think this sets you up to move forward in life and be happy?
I think this has set me up to be happier alone, and it's made dating incredibly difficult. Like it, it just
Say
sounds,
more.
it sounds so messed up, but like dating has become incredibly difficult because the toxic cycles have become boring. You know,
Mm,
I know if I'm confused about a guy, like this is, I was telling you before we started recording how I just ended things with somebody I was dating. And I initiated that conversation. Never in my life thought I'd be the one to be ending things. It
good
ended up
for
being more
you. Did that feel
mutual.
good though?
It did because I was like, it was a battle with myself for a good couple days because I was like, fuck, I really like him. He checks all my boxes, but I don't think he's in a place right now to be the partner I want or deserve. And he agreed with that. And he even said, he's like, I'm just so conflicted because I really like you, but I'm still learning how to be good to myself. And I can't be anybody's anything right now. So that
That's
like,
amazing. I think that's amazing modeling for how people should be dating because I think
yes.
we can miss a lot of things when we like them and they seemingly check all the boxes. And then we're not really looking at like emotional availability and
Yeah.
readiness. And so those first two things are enough to just continue to date.
Yeah. He ended up ruining it when he was like, "But I can offer you friendship." I was like, "I don't want to be your friend. I don't need
Yeah.
to be your friend." And I said this to him, and I was like, "I'm not trying to be mean here." I was like, "But we're not going to be friends." I was like, "Friends hang out, friends talk, friends support each other. You're literally telling me you cannot make me a priority. You can't prioritize a relationship. How could you prioritize a friendship? Like I'm not in
Yeah.
a place in my life where I just need to be collecting endless guy friends. Like I have my guy friends. I'm good. And also like you've seen me. Like I don't need to be your friend. Like I don't want to be
Yeah.
going out with you and I'm gonna like I know who I am. I don't like I get jealous. Like I will own that. I don't want to see the guy I like, it's just it would never
Yeah.
be a true
Yeah.
platonic friendship. Um but that was so it's made dating hard because it's like I don't want to do the games anymore. I don't want to chase. Like it's a turn off if I'm confused, I'm turned off. Like, and I think I wish more women realize that like you should take feeling confused as a turn off because it's very clear he is not making his feelings known about you. Now you can have that conversation and you maybe should have like, hey, the communication has changed or hey, where do you stand with me? Here's how
Hmm.
I feel and approach it from the lens of here's how I am feeling. Like, where are you at? Because I think this is how so many women end up in these situationship style relationships because they are too afraid to hear the things that they don't want to hear. And in the end, you're only prolonging your own heartbreak. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way so many times. I mean, I swear, I
Yeah.
was like, I like God, the universe, whatever you believe, like was trying to beat it into me and just I was not getting it. And I think so many women just don't get it for so long. Um, but it's never going to end well. Someone is going to get hurt, and I think for me, I'm such a relationship girl. I'm a lover girl at heart. Like I've had to really work at staying soft and staying committed to finding love because it is so easy in this dating climate to get jaded and bitter. And I've been
Sure.
there, we've all been there, like the wounded, I'm never dating again, fuck guys, I'm gonna just be like a player, da 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 da. Every single time I'm like, oh wait, I actually really like him. Like that's just not who I am. And if you are a woman that's like that, cool, great. No judgment on you either. Like do the thing is like we should all just be able to do what we want with our relationships and like have the kind of relationship we want. But I think if a lot more women were honest about with themselves and the guy that they're seeing about their feelings, that either some of them may be surprised and get into relationships, but also some of them will set themselves free a lot sooner, and you're wasting less of
Yeah.
your own time.
I think and I've seen it in my work with my clients, it just gets scary to be that vulnerable, but it's so
Oh yeah.
necessary. It's not, easy to do. It's scary to do. I think we can rationalize not doing it, talking
Hmm.
ourselves out of those hard conversations, like be more in avoidance, but that just creates a lot, like you said, a lot of confusion, misunderstanding, like assumption. And I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of people out there, not just in the dating world. I did just recorded a solo episode on friendship, just not having conversations that can
Mhm.
cultivate clarity, right?
Yeah.
And clarity could be like, this friendship doesn't work anymore, or clarity could be like, you're amazing, but we're not, on the same page. And I just think the more we avoid those types of conversation, the more
Yeah.
confused we're going to be.
Yeah, for a long time, I always, one of my favorite things to talk about is how life isn't full of black and whites. It's full of shades of gray. And I think too often, though, people like to live in those shades of gray. There is a time and place to get that clarity, the black and white, for it to come into play. But, you know, with relationships and stuff, like the sooner you figure out what it is you truly want, the lot of stress you'll save yourself and the lot happier you'll be. And also it'll allow you to maybe find your person sooner than you would have. Um, and I think also too, there's that stigma of being single. Like
Sure.
I never in my life thought I would enjoy being single. I always thought, I always envied the girls who were able to bounce from relationship to relationship. And I was just like, I don't understand how they're getting boyfriends so quickly. Like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me that nobody wants to date me? And I've been single for
Mm,
6 months or a year. I'm like, I'm going on 3 years single now. And it's no reflection of me that I've been single for that long. And sometimes there are people out there that it is a reflection of themselves. But for me, I know it's not a reflection of myself because I just haven't found anybody that I'm like, I want to build a relationship with you and you want to build a relationship with me. Like that's
yeah.
it. That's the
I
bottom
love
line of what
that.
it
Yeah.
boils down to.
I think knowing and feeling fully that where we are in our life is not always,
Mhm.
to your point, for some people maybe it is, but like is not a reflection of us, or whether or not we're successful or whether or not we're a failure. I think often when we don't hit these milestones when we're told we're supposed to, we feel like something is wrong with us, and
Right.
it's not. And I really feel that everybody's timeline, his path is so different, and we're sold the story that it's supposed to be like so cookie cutter. And
Mhm.
you can feel excited and curious about what your own life path is going to be. Life can be so much more enjoyable. But when we feel like I am not in a relationship, or I've been single for too long, or I don't have a career that I love, or I don't have X, Y, and Z, and you're judging yourself for that, it just creates so much turmoil and unhappiness.
Right. And the other thing too is like I think what people don't realize about those who I call them like relationship hoppers or serial daters, the serial daters, a lot of the times it's because they can't sit with themselves or they
Sure.
can't
Hmm.
face certain parts of themselves or they're again chasing that validation of having a partner. Like it's not necessarily always someone to envy because you don't know what they're running from. They're not necessarily just running to that next partner. They're probably running away from some things that they've never
Oh
dealt
yeah.
with as well. And they're probably carrying the same mistakes they made in that last relationship to that next one. They're not necessarily learning and growing from their relationships as you should.
Yeah. Again, that comparison piece, like we don't know the full
Mm-hmm.
story. We just
Something,
compare on parts of
some,
it.
my favorite piece of advice, my roommate has said this for my, oh my God, my old roommate, sadness. Something she always says, and I've taken from us living together, was that comparison is the thief of joy. And I know she didn't
Mhm.
invent that phrase, but she is such a believer in that and really drilled that into my head because she has seen me at so many different phases of life and like seasons of life. I met her in 2018, I
Mhm,
believe. So
mhm.
we've been friends for coming up on 7 years now, which is crazy because I met her when I was still with my college boyfriend
Oh,
and met
wow.
her at the tail end of that relationship. So it's just crazy to like, she has seen me at so many different phases of life and so many different versions of myself, crying on her bedroom floor, like hyperventilating on her bedroom floor. Like
Mm.
she has seen it all. And so that's something that she really drilled into my head because it's so easy to get wrapped up in comparing to others of what they have versus what you don't. But you don't know who's looking at you and thinking, I wish I had that.
True.
Like, you
So
just
true.
don't know.
Well, and I think, and I fell into this trap too, is being too focused on the things that we don't have is also the
Mhm.
thief of joy, right? Even if we're not comparing externally, if we're looking at like, I
Yeah.
don't have these things yet now, I want them now.
Mhm.
that's a thief of joy too. It was for me too. Is like I was so focused on the things that I didn't have that I wasn't looking at all the things, amazing things that I
Yeah.
had.
I think I mentioned this on the episode you and I did, and I say this on my podcast all the time. I call that mindset the "I'll be happy when" mindset,
Yes, you did
because
say
that's
that. Yeah, yeah.
I had that model growing up from my dad of, he's like, I'll be happy when I buy land or retire. Like it was always, I'll be happy when. And it's great to have goals to work towards. But if you can't sit and enjoy your present, like you're going to be constantly chasing something else and you're never going to fully be present in your life.
Well, and that's
And
like and that's the messages that are ingrained, like this linear societal milestone timelines expectation is like once you get to these things, you're going to be happy. Like once you meet the partner, you're going to be happy. Once you get married, you'll be happy. Once you buy a house, you'll be happy. Once you have a kid, you'll be happy. And like, yeah, we're not getting enough messages that now we are more, but we weren't getting enough
Mhm.
messages that said, enjoying the journey and don't be so outcome driven. Because often we can arrive at these things and it doesn't like, it's not a magic wand that like solves all the problems and instantly makes you happy.
Right, exactly.
One last thing to wrap up with. Well, a couple things. One, you were saying this earlier, and you have a post about this like getting fired was the best thing that ever happened to you. Right. And
Mhm.
so it changed the course of things for you. You've started your business and maybe you wouldn't have done this yet. How do you feel about where you are now?
Oh, it's so funny that you're asking this because I literally had a conversation with one of my fellow like creative friends yesterday. His name's Mario. He's actually the friend that said to me, he's like, "I'm so glad you got laid off. I've been waiting for you to go freelance." Like he was happier than a pig in shit that I was finally not a corporate girl anymore. And I was on the phone with him and I was just talking about, I was like, and this is part of why I'm going back to therapy today. I was like, I'm feeling like really overwhelmed. I feel like I complete one task and I have five more appear. Like, I feel like I'm failing. Da da da. And he stopped me. He goes, "How long have you been in business?" I go, 3.5 months. He goes, "Do I need to say anymore?" And I go, "No." And it's true because I'm not perfect either. Like I get wrapped up in like I should have this all together by now, but it's like, no, that was a lot of change to go through in one year. But I
Oh my
feel
gosh. Yeah.
like the fact that it was still in the same calendar year, 3.5 months ago that I started this business, 4.5 that I got laid off, is just I night and day. It's insane. Um, but all that to say, like, I feel really lucky that my younger self was so committed to healing and growing because she set me up to be able to handle all of this today. And I feel really lucky that I have so many wonderful creatives around me who I've been able to like kind of lean on, and just fellow business owners I've been able to lean on and learn from and grow. And I just feel really excited about where it's going. I think
Mm,
I don't want to sit here and say I got lucky because I didn't realize, and I think this is a really great message for younger people too, of like, you don't really realize how many of the connections that you're making and how you're already networking, and you don't realize that. Like, you are your brand, you are your reputation. Um, and I've always considered myself a really kind person, and I truly believe in leading my life with kindness. And I think the reason I have found so much success so far is because I've lived by that, and it's paid off for me.
mm,
Because people remembered that and they believed in me before I even believed in myself. Not that I need them to, but it's nice to have them to cheer me on. I don't
for
rely on it, but
sure.
having them to cheer me on has been, I think, really wonderful. And, the connections that they've given me that have led to business transactions and contracts and all those things. I didn't realize how much of the work I'd already done over the years to set myself up for this moment. So I feel really, like I said, blessed, excited, and just inspired. I have a
Mm.
newfound hunger creatively. Like I mentioned in our episode, I'm working on my novel again. I told myself it was going to be done this year. There's no way in hell that's happening. And again, I put that pressure on myself to finish it. And I'm like, girl, it could be ready in 5 years and you're still doing the dang thing.
Yes.
Um, but, yeah, so just like a lot of creative energy to channel, and just reminding myself to take it slow, take it day by day, and like give myself a lot of grace with the things I'm doing, because it's a learning curve for me. Like, prime example is my podcast. Like, I'm still working on the podcast clips from our episode, but it's because like sometimes my shit has to take a backseat to my client's stuff. Like,
Yeah.
that's the priority. They're my business. Like, and so it's learning how to balance and time things, and it's all a learning curve. And with the podcast too, like I literally realized yesterday, I go, holy crap, next week's episode, that's the 100th episode. What am I going to do for it? Oh my God. Like I sat there,
Amazing.
I was like
Congrats. What a
counting.
milestone.
I was like counting. I was like, wait, when is the 100th episode? And I was like counting. I was like, oh crap. Like, I didn't even realize because I've been so wrapped up in other things. But it's nuts. It's nuts how far I have come since that girl who's on her 23rd birthday hit, publish on an episode, and just
Amazing. I mean, you really are the testament of like, just go for it and just
go
do
for
it.
it.
And I love, and we talked about this when I was on your podcast, is like the title of your podcast says everything, like not the girl next door. And we're all unique and different, and we cannot all be on the same linear path, checking all the same boxes. Like, we have to embody our uniqueness. And so I love the title of your podcast.
Yeah. And for, the younger girls that may be listening, or any woman of any age, like, you're not any less beautiful because you don't fit the mold. You're not any less, worthy of love because maybe you're a quote bigger, mid-size, bigger size, whatever, like, or you're loud and you have ambition. Like, we're not trying to date the entire world. We're just trying to date one person and then love that person for the rest of our lives, potentially, if that's the kind of relationship you want. So that's kind of what you have to remind yourself too, is like, you're not trying to date everybody. You just want one good one. And that feels like really exhausting. It's like, well, where is he? I don't know. Just, enjoy the ride of trying to find that person. And like, something that I've started trying to do and be better at is just having fun in dating. And not getting wrapped up in the, do they like me? No, ask yourself if you like them.
Oh my
Like,
God, I say that all the
do
time.
you like them, or do you just find yourself entertaining? Like, was it actually a good date, or are you crack yourself up? Like, cause I know I make myself laugh all the time. Like, so half the time I don't even know if the man was there or not. Like,
yeah. Well, I think the message too is just what we were saying all session. Oh my God, therapy brain. Do you know how often I did that? I did that this week. I call these things sessions.
I mean, they kind of are. Like,
They kind of are, but that's literally my therapy brain.
It's like therapy in your pocket.
Is tuning in to yourself, right? Like listening to yourself, and and I'm not saying like getting advice and support is a bad thing, but like you said, ultimately it has to be your own voice. And I'm just so excited to be connected with you. I'm so excited to have been on your podcast, to have you here with me. You are also a true testament, is like, age is not a thing. Like, you have lived a lot of life. You have so much wisdom to pay forward at 25. I'm so excited to continue to stay connected and see what you do.
Yes.
And congratulations on your 100th episode. So exciting. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. I so appreciate it. And I'm so glad that, you guys found me, and, our podcast messagings really do align. And it's a true testament to how, like, you can have common ground and connection with anyone of any age if you really are committed to looking for it. And I think it's really beautiful that so many other women out there are like sharing their stories, and we're all coming together in this way. And I think that's just, it's just a wonderful thing, truly. So thank you so much for having me. Seriously.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
If you guys are like me and wanting to be more mindful about what's in your products, how many toxins are in your products, and making sure that you're putting good things on your skin and into your body, I highly recommend Osea. I did a total revamp on all my products, and this is one I have been using and now is a staple in my bathroom. I particularly love their Ocean Eyes Age Defining Serum. I feel like I don't have bags under my eyes anymore, and I just feel really good putting this on my skin, knowing something good is going on my skin and into my body. So if you want to check out Osea's products, use our code QTCPOD10 to get 10% off your first purchase. Hey guys, I'm Beth. Thank you so much for tuning in to Quiet the Clock. If you want to hear more episodes and learn more about how to dismantle societal timelines, live life on your own terms, live life fully and authentically, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and you can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Quiet the Clock Pod. You guys, I'm really excited. We just created all this amazing merch. And so if you're loving
the podcast and you want to support our cause and continue to hear amazing episodes, please support us by buying some merch. I am living in these sweatshirts every day. We have a range of colors. We have hoodies, we have mugs, we have hats, we have journals. We have all of the things, and I love having them on because it's just a reminder to quiet the clock, to slow down, to like let life unfold and be happy. So there's meaning and purpose behind wearing it too, which is a nice reminder. So check out our website, quiettheclock.com, to get your merch.